What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Doll Benfica podcast, episode number 281 tonight, Tuesday night. As always, I'm here with Cristiano Oliveira by my side. Cristiano, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How's everyone doing tonight?
That's right. And up in Toronto, and we're saddened to hear the news up in Toronto. Hope everybody is doing well. But Steve Santos, how are you, Steve?
I'm all right. I have to admit I was a little bit shooken up by what happened yesterday, but I'm okay.
Yep. And Dave de Oliveira, fresh from his trip from Portugal. How you doing, Dave?
Doing all right. Great to be back here tonight, boys.
Good, man. Good. We'll get a chance to talk to Dave since Dave went to that Benfica Porto game. We'll get a chance to talk to him in a little bit in regards to that. But let's get this going. On tonight's podcast, we'll look back at Benfica's goleada por 2-1 against Estoril. If I want to verbatim Rui Vitória, and we'll look ahead to Tondela, which comes up this week. The one of 3 games left in the season, as the season comes to its final stages. So let's get into it. Benfica traveled to Estoril to play the local team. I'll give you the lineup. Varela was in goal. Right back, André Almeida, Jardel, and Dias in the middle of defense. Grimaldo at left back, Feza, Pizzi, and Zivkovic in the midfield triangle. Rafa on the right wing and Servi on the left wing. And Jimenez up front again. Jonas has not recuperated enough to play, so he hasn't even made the bench. So never mind, Cristiano's theory about against Porto, which probably would have worked well against Porto in a little bluff, if you will. But Estoril, I guess, it's not going to work. So here we are. I'll give you a quick recap of the game, and then we'll get into it. Benfica started well, as they have. Created some chances. We did score early in the 10th minute by Rafa, who got his 3rd goal of the season. Finished up the half okay, went into the locker room, and again, I don't know if it's the chamomile tea that they're getting at halftime, or is just too long of a talk by Professor Vitória that's putting them to sleep. But Benfica comes out in the second half a little bit down. I don't know, asleep. I don't know if there's a better word to call it. Estoril gets back in the game, gets some confidence, ends up getting the tying goal. After having a goal call back, ends up getting the tying goal in the 63rd minute, and then Benfica had to scratch and claw to get back. The winning goal did come in the 90 plus out of the header of Salva, who had made his way in. Steve, definitely, and you and I were talking about this just maybe a few hours ago. We were talking about Bruno. That Benfica, the best we've seen Benfica was perhaps up until the period where they played Setúbal, where they struggled against Setúbal, and ever since then, the team hasn't really quite looked itself. Has not been as dominating as they were up until that point. Do you think that it's wearing out? Do you think that the pressure is something that we should be taking into consideration? What do you attribute this kind of lowering of form of Benfica since that Setúbal game?
Well, I think there's a certain Jonas dependency between goals, between the way he plays and makes his other teammates play. I think Jonas is a huge miss. Then you got other things that are really, in every game there's nothing new. I mean, there's players doing what they generally are not good at over and over again. Raul losing the ball. Rafa in this game, yes, he scores one goal but misses another 3
more than that.
You know what I mean? It's a lot of reoccurring themes on the negative side, plus a very important player missing. Add that to the way I think we were deflated versus Porto. I'm scared that this might be something that we're going to see for the rest of the remaining games. I'm like I said last week. I I was worried what kind of effect it would have had on the psyche of the team losing to Porto or in that fashion, last minute. Just when you think you might be in control of your own destiny, to be deflated like that, I think that's gonna play a part on the confidence of the players. But that's just adding to the things that we've seen time and time again. Poor second halves again versus Estoril. Poor second half. Andre Almeida getting beat at the back post on a set piece happened again. I mean, it's nothing. We didn't learn anything really from the past few games about this team. Just weaknesses have started to show their head again. And that's really what it comes down to. I think there's not just one thing that I could pinpoint. If I'm going to pinpoint one thing, the Jonas thing is the biggest one. But aside from that, I mean, it's a constant. I don't want to say constant errors, but it's the consistency of things that we struggle with. I mean, getting out of the back, teams press us. Pliuav, same thing. Bull Lynch, same thing. All the things that we generally struggled with previously, we're just showing it more often now, I feel.
Steve, you know what it is, man? With the bad second halves, those same mistakes over and over again, it's a recurring theme. It's exactly what it is. I mean, we've touched on pretty much all of these things that have gone wrong in the last couple of games, and it's not something we mentioned last week or just started. This has been going on all season, and the one saving grace has been Jonas. And right now, you really realize how effective Jonas was in bailing Benfica out and putting away some of those opportunities that Jimenez and Rafa haven't been able to do. And therefore, that masked a lot of the mistakes that Benfica was making throughout a game. And so it just, again, bro, Benfica needs Jonas back healthy, as soon as possible. And it's a little confusing, though, guys, to be brutally honest with you.
Yeah,
with the situation with Jonas, because you hear he's fatigued, and I mean fatigued for a month.
What's a lombalgia?
I don't even know.
It's back pain.
That's the last that I saw. It was,
yeah,
and that's
it's back pain. Yeah, back pain. I actually published it. So today, the biggest news was that a treadmill that was designed by NASA that was now at Stade de Luge. I actually
was it the treadmill or was it that recovery?
No, it's a treadmill.
Okay.
So I actually went on the internet and I YouTubed it, and there's quite a few videos, and I posted a video of what it is. So it basically is a treadmill that's zero gravity treadmill that basically has you elevated, and even though you're still working towards your muscular mass, if you will, you're not putting any strain on any parts of your body as a result, because it's almost like you're running on air. Really, you're floating.
We have a friend of mine, Little Miss New York Jet, Portuguese Debbie. She happens to be Portuguese. She's Portuguese though, unfortunately, but she works for that company. She does a great job. She travels the world selling same equipment. So that's why I thought it was a hyper chamber that they were talking about. I did not know it was that trust. So okay.
No, I posted a link. It's all over YouTube. Just Google it up. But if you want to just check our timeline. But anyway, Cristiano, you've been in quite a few locker rooms, and the thing that I want to kind of get to it is how do teams go into the locker room having played a half that was decent, and then come out of a locker room and play a totally different half? You think that it's the mentality of the players? You think there's a little bit of maybe insecurity, a lack of confidence by the players? You think maybe it's the coach's speech? I don't want to bring the coach's speech, but
look, man, you could go one of many ways with this, right? But in my opinion, and I know some people are going to think I'm hating on the coaching staff, but it's absolutely not. I just think that when we play a 34 game season, correct?
Yeah.
When you're 31 games in, and the team is still committing the same mistakes over and over and over. Look, if it's at the beginning of the season and the team is going into the locker room and losing that intensity, losing that atmosphere, okay, fine. It's early on in the season. The team still isn't 100% fit, which they should be. But, you could point to a couple different things. But when you're 31 games into the season and the coach is still not getting that message through, I'm sorry, but I have to point to the coach, because if my players are tuning me out for 31 games, there's a problem. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the coach needs to do a better job of transmitting that message to the team, whether it's to instill confidence in them, whether it's to motivate these guys to go on and fight harder, or am I wrong to question his tactics at halftime? Maybe taking his foot off the pedal. Does he change things that dramatically? I mean, it's really tough to pinpoint, but that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah, but you got to think that, and what we know about Vitória is that he's more of a man manager than a tactician, right? So if there's anything that he's good at is motivating and getting and rallying.
Well, he
the
can't be
troops.
that good because every halftime they come out looking worse than they did in the first half. So I mean, I don't look. Let's not pile on the guy, but I got to stop praising him at some point when that's a mistake that's repetitive, that's over and over and over. And we're not talking about, look, if it's against Futebol Clube Porto, if it's against Sporting, right? If it's against Manchester United in the Champions League and teams of that caliber, okay, maybe their coach did a better job of transmitting the message that they need to pick up the game because, they're falling behind, yada, yada, yada. They have the caliber players. But when you're playing against the Studios, the Moreirenses, the Chaves, the Paços Ferreira,
Belenenses,
the Boavista, and you're coming out in the second half, and those teams are able to pick up, and the teams are able to make adjustments based on the way you played in the first half. And obviously, there's always cracks, right, that you could take advantage of by looking at the way the teams are set up, and they're able to do that. Who the hell am I going to blame? I mean, it's 31 games into the season. At what point does the coaching staff take responsibility? No, I don't want to say take responsibility, but gets the blame or is looked at for the lack of adjustments. Somebody's not doing something right.
But one of the things that Steve had mentioned is that when we are pressed high, it seems that the team doesn't have any solutions. They don't have a way to get out of the high press. And that's been something that's been felt all season long. So at what points are you incapable of coming out of that high press or breaking down that high press? Against Estoril, I saw many times both Jardel and Ruben Dias hoofing the ball and really to nobody, just a lost ball. And I don't know if it's a lack of movement by the wingers or by the fullbacks not getting into those spaces and not getting into a position to receive the ball. But the problem is that anytime Benfica is pressed high, we struggle.
So who does that responsibility fall on?
Well,
at the end of the day, it falls on who?
Well, it falls.
Coaching staff.
It falls on some of the routines that haven't been worked well.
The coaching staff. Look, man, here's the one thing, and Stephen, I'll let you jump in. To me, it falls on the coaching staff, Stephen. I'll explain to you why. Because if I can sit, the three of us can sit, and I'm pretty sure there's plenty of other Benfiquistas or Entais, whatever you want to call them. But if we can sit in our couches, right? If I can sit on my couch and see this with my own eyes, right? And see that Benfica has trouble dealing with the press and coming out of their own zone with the press. I'm pretty sure the coaching staff has to see this. I'm pretty sure this is something that as a coach, if I'm coaching a team and I realize that my team lacks in some part of the game that I'm trying to build, right? In any aspect of the game, I'm going to go to practice and I'm going to work on that until my team improves to the point where they're not having a struggle against the studio. So to me, and bro, forget who the coach is. To me, it's on the coaching. If this happened with Real Madrid, I would say the same thing. With Manchester United, with Chelsea, with AC Milan, it's on the coaching staff because they're the ones that get paid to make those adjustments. Go ahead, Steve.
So, I agree. I think the coach should be able to make players confident enough that they're comfortable to play the ball out of the back with short triangles, with the passing lanes being there, or when they're closed off, you find a way to create another one, et cetera, et cetera. These are the routines, like Alfredo said, that should be in place. Add a little bit of a caveat there. We got three players that are in the central position of that first phase of construction that none of the three are technically very adept, technically very comfortable on the ball, very confident. I mean, Ruben Dias has grown in stature and in this respect big time. I mean, albeit more so when he's not pressed, but even then, I didn't think that he had the passing ability that I have seen on occasion when he's not pressed. But that is more of a confidence thing. I mean, if you're able to do it when you're not pressed, that means you have the technique to pull it off. You just need to be able to know that, okay, when I get this ball, I'm going to have these three options. And if two of these options are taken, I know for sure that this other one's going to be dragged in. And that's where I look at the coaching staff. But that has been something we've not been good at. Even with Lindelof and the team, Lindelof, when he was there, he had a different way to come out of the back. If you remember, Lindelof would pick up the ball. Once there was a space, he would carry it into that space, draw players to him, and then he'd play it off. Yeah. None of the guys that we have now have that. And
back to space, yeah.
Now we're in a more static position, or more static players, with more static players in front of him. It makes it hard to play the football, but it's like you say, procedures and routines that kind of have to become second nature, so that the players that, yes, they're technically limited, but these are first division football players. They can make a 20-yard pass. You know what I mean? Yeah. You have, in a very similar circumstance, I don't think that Ruben Dias or Jardel have much worse feet than Marcelo, and I can't remember their other center back, but I'm sure they're not much worse. But they've been instilled that this is the way we're going to play. This is our MO. This is the way that the ball moves from sector to sector, and it's going to work regardless if we're playing Benfica or if we're playing Sporting or Porto, or if we're going to play Belenenses. This is the way we're going to play. But we've never been that way, and I've said time and time again, we've always relied too much on the Pizzis and the Grimaldos in that first phase, because they have the confidence, they have the ability to play it out of the back. And we're a lot of times building with 4 guys versus 2. And then when you get it into the creative zone, there's always a mismatch there as well. Hey, I don't want to bash just the coach, and that's not where I'm going, but that's something that I've always had a problem with our build-up phase.
Look, to take it away from the coach, you need Pizzi and Zivkovic to drop back and make themselves available, Steve, which to me, if they're not doing a good job, it's on the coach.
I don't subscribe to that. I don't think they should be there. Personally, I don't think they should have anything to do with the first phase of construction. In the way I believe football should be played, those interiors should be in the opponent's core, looking to receive the ball in the second phase. Nowhere near.
If it's not working, if my CBs don't have an outlet, right? I'm not arguing with you. I'm asking, right? If my CBs don't have an outlet and my only option is to hoof it up the field and turn over possession, right? Give it away. I think I need to do everything I can to get flood the zone and make guys available in order to get out of my own zone. That's the way I've always been told. When you're playing possession football, that's the way to play.
The only way that works is if the zones that Pizzi and Zivkovic vacate, someone's got to move into them, or else the ball doesn't progress.
Oh no, I'm not saying you don't have to.
The ball only moves with the players all together. So it's just, this is the things we're talking about. These routines have never been in place. When we were not pressed, we were able to get the ball into the creation zone, or the second phase, and then you have Zivkovic and you have Pizzi, who are in our league miles better than at least 70% of the players that they're going to play against. So that's going to make the difference. Just leaving this topic, because it's something we've discussed, something we haven't discussed, or we have a maybe not so pinpointed. Where does a lack of focus and hunger and desire come in with these sloppy second halves? I'm never against pointing a finger at Rui Vitória, but I don't know if all the blame has to go on the players, but there's some players out there that I think may have won too much. May have been part of this team for a little bit too long. Maybe complacency sticking in.
Who name him, bro? Name him.
I'm looking at Pizzi.
Okay, I agree. I mean, not that I agree, but I could go with him.
He was
yes.
setting you up for that one.
I don't want to say Almeida because he's had one of his best seasons, but Pizzi's a big one.
Yeah, but that's why I asked you who, because to me, you can make an argument for
for
else.
me,
Easy, I think it's easy.
I think that if you look at it, probably Pizzi's the biggest name on that list.
Besa for me has to take more responsibility in the build-up phase.
But that's not his game, though, Steve. He's never had that game. That's not his game.
But Chris, he's a first division football player.
I understand, but Steve, you don't ask Jardel. You don't ask Jardel to do that, right?
Who?
You don't ask Jardel to do that to come out with.
I was about to say the same. Jardel, when he's not pressed, looks like he's got the confidence to do things. When he's pressed, he doesn't have it. So I know it's all in context, but it's a mentality thing. And again, if we're going to twist back and look at the coaches for not instilling that mentality. But there's some complacency out there. I think I think Pizzi's probably the biggest one at this point. But
yeah,
who are you going to put in there?
Look, I would even go as far as saying that, and I guess this has been throughout. As far as saying that Benfica has lived a lot, and this is not just the season. Benfica has lived a lot off of individual talent, and I think when you're looking at when you talk about complacency and you're talking about that the team goes down, I think it's up for these guys that have the individual talent to step up and say, "Hey, look, I'm gonna work a little extra hard so I can make this happen." So you're right, Steve. It can't totally be blamed on the coaching staff. Yeah, the routines, I get it, because those things are things that are trained in the training grounds. But some of these guys with the individual talent and with the experience in the first division should perhaps be doing a little bit more. And I think that Pizzi is the biggest name that we could point out. He's had compared to last season where he was voted the best player in the league, he's had a very subpar season this season. Yeah. So, I mean, we got to look at both the coaching staff and the players at this point.
Well, just look at the numbers. Dave puts them up, right? Every time Pizzi scores, Benfica wins. So when the guy shows up to play, whether it's against Monkus or not, that's another conversation for another day. But when he shows up to play, good things usually happen for Benfica. The results are there.
Yeah.
But he's been way too inconsistent this year.
So what was the headline? Vitória mentions Pizzi and being married and having children.
Yeah, I think at this point that, listening to a lot of Vitória's statements, and look, he's always been exemplary in the way that he conducts himself and the way he respects his opponents. But as of late, he's come out with some things that make you kind of scratch your head, and I don't know where he's coming from, and I don't know if that shows some signs of that he's cracking under pressure. But lately, his pressers have been a bit odd, to say the least. That was one of the things. Pizzi's married with a kid, and I had no idea where he's trying to go with it. And even when you have all of the context, it's kind of hard to make some sense of what he's trying to say. Nonetheless, I mean, look, it is what it is. Let's move on. There's 3 games left, and we'll see what happens. But let's wrap this one. So Salva got the goal in the 92nd minute against Turil. This was now the second time that Benfica has gotten a goal in the 92nd minute. Jimenez penalty on the Stubble win 2-1. And also Jonas in the 88th minute and Rafa in the 90th minute penalty to win 3-1 against Paços de Ferreira. So these were last gasp efforts by Benfica. Again, Jonas in the 97th minute against Polnense with a free kick to tie it up. And, among others. And they've put up the stat, 8 goals coming from the bench this season. Only Braga has more with 15 goals. So it's been quite a season for Benfica. And to be honest with you, if you got some heart palpitations, these are probably not the games that you want to be watching, because these go right down to the wire. And I got to be honest, I saw things dark in this game. And look, obviously, I'm happy that Benfica pulled through, as I'm always happy that Benfica pulls through. And I never pull against Benfica, of course. But too close to call. And the thing is that up until that Stubble game, Steve and I, and even Cristiano, we admitted here that this was perhaps the best ball Benfica had been playing all season, and perhaps in the past couple seasons under Rui Vitoria. And we were confident that Benfica was hitting stride at that time. And they were probably in the best moment of the season coming into this final stretch of the season. Then you have that Stubble game, shaky game. Then you have the Porto game, which we go into it very confident because of what the team has shown us in the past month and a half. And then I think that Porto loss was something that I don't know if it affected the players mentally. And I wanted to go to speak a little bit to Dave about the Porto game because he was there, and we had spoken here about how and it was mentioned throughout the social media how the fans had kind of quieted down in that last final stretch. And Dave, you were there. Just give us what your feelings were and watching this game and how everything developed and the crowd participation in that those last 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah, for sure. The first 10 minutes and first half, our fans were right on point there, singing and chanting. But as the second half story went on, especially after Rui Vitoria brought in Samaris, I feel like everybody was on edge and just anxious, and maybe the team was anxious as well. But where I was sitting right below the Super Dragões, so I don't know if that played a role in it, but it was all I could hear were the Super Dragões and a little bit of the no-name boys, but other than that, our fans were mostly quiet in that second half there.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you were able to give your first person account of what went on, because we did read a lot of things on social media and the blogs that a lot of fans had complained that there was a lot of people eating popcorn and just watching game, not really pulling for the team. And look, I know that there's all types of fans. I know that Steve likes to go and watch a game and focus on what he's watching. He's not really a guy to get up and sing and shout and clap. But the majority of the fans should be able to pull for the team. They should be able to have some kind of a pulse on what the team needs at that time. And if there's been times in the past where the team has lost and at the end of the game, the fans are clapping because they sense that they need to not let the team drop. This was probably one of the situations where fans should have understood and should have read that at that time, the team needed them more than anything. And I'm a bit disappointed that the crowd wasn't more involved, especially in those last 30 minutes of the game against Porto, which could have helped out the team a lot. And look, believe it or not, these guys that are completely focused on what's going on the field and focused on their playing, they can sense the atmosphere on the field. And sometimes that atmosphere could be something that gives them a little extra push. And I think not having the fans behind them, I think that was probably something that played into the psyche of some of these players. And then again, allowing that goal late, I think was a big blow. I'm glad that Benfica was able to win against Estoril, but definitely I think that loss left some marks on this team. Let's see what they have coming up and now what they can do against Tondela back at Estádio da Luz. First time back at Estádio da Luz since the Porto game, obviously. And Tondela is actually in 11th place, 35 points from 9 wins, 8 ties, 14 losses. Away, 4 wins, 5 ties, and 6 losses. Away, they have only allowed 15 goals away from their stadium. That's third best in the league. So they have the third best defense, one playing away from their home pitch. Tondela does. So it's going to be done. I'm curious to see how obviously the fans are going to receive this team, if they're still going to be behind this team. The outpour of support at the Estoril at Coimbra da Mota was very good. And even though the team left it late, I thought that the fans were pleased with the result, as they all should be, regardless of that poor second half. Just to give you some stats on this Tondela. Benfica have won all their games against Tondela, 5 wins. Of course, this season, Benfica won 5-1, 2 goals from Pizzi, 1 goal from Salvi, and 2 goals from Jonas. Nonetheless, this is a weekend that Cristiano Porto travels to the Madeira, which is a big game, and I think that if you're a Benfiquista, you're thinking that this could be a game that they could struggle in.
This is definitely the game you're looking at, and you're keeping your fingers crossed and hoping for the best outcome possible as a Benfica fan. But Porto's been hitting on all cylinders, man. So I don't really look. To be honest, I don't want to talk about it much because I don't want to jinx it. We'll see what happens. I'll check it out after the game because, man, I just look, man. It's the last of the 3 games I think that pose a threat to Porto. You know, they've always. Marítimo always played Porto tough at home, and hopefully that continues. But if Porto gets through Marítimo, I think it's a clean path for them, unfortunately, man. And I hope that pressure gets to them, and I hope that Benfica keeps doing, pulling off their victories and doing what they have to do and worry about themselves. But at this point, without some help, it's going to be tough.
Look, basically, we need to do what we need to do. Whether it's a win against Tondela, whether it's a win against Alvalade, and then a win against Moreirense in the season closer. That's what we need to do. We can't afford to lose any more points. And, pray to your lucky stars and all your Santinhas and Santinhos, whatever you pray to, that there's some points to be dropped by Porto. So, like I said, esperança é a última coisa a morrer. And é até o fim. That's the biggest thing. But obviously, the optimism that the fan base had prior to the Porto game has suffered a blow, obviously, with the loss against Porto. But nonetheless, it ain't over till it's over. So that's what it is. Steve, Stadio da Luz, hopefully we could see the team getting back to the good form, good exhibitions, as they like to call it in Portuguese, boas exibições. And the biggest thing for me that I'm looking for is we got to build up on some kind of momentum to go into the Alvalade the week after that. Obviously, we can't look past Tondela into that game against Sporting, but we got to put some kind of momentum together. Let me ask you something right now, which seems to be a big talking point this week for the game against Tondela. With Salvio emerging, obviously getting healthy, getting a game rhythm. At this point, do you pull out Servi, put Rafa on the left, and Salvio to start?
I definitely don't want to drop Rafa, no matter how many goals he's missing. He's got that. What is it? How do you say it in Portuguese? I always mess up that word. Desequilibrador. How come I can't say that word? Can you say that? Yeah, he's got that. Where not many. Yeah, where Servi has seemed to have lost it recently. That 1v1, that pace. And then when Salvio does what he does, I mean, Salvio's a good goal scorer. He doesn't miss too many chances, where Rafa misses many. I could definitely see that being the change. If you feel Salvio is fit and he's ready to go and he should play from the start, I would much prefer at this point, even though that left side previously was one of our strong points, I'm ready to try to break it up, because Servi for the past maybe 4 or 5 games has been not as good as he was before. Yeah. So and I don't think it's fair to Rafa, who's been one of our bright spots, to drop him, to bring in Salvi personally.
Yeah. Look, I got to give some credit to Cristiano. Cristiano, maybe about 4 or 5 pods ago, he did mention that he would feel that Servi should take a seat on the bench because he had been subpar. Of course, this was on a conversation where we were talking about the 4-4-2 again versus the 4-3-3. But Cristiano did point out that that Servi had been subpar ever since he did that stretch of games where he was completely blazing, that he had been subpar, and at that point maybe he deserved to see the bench a little bit.
I might say a lot of crazy things, but there's a lot of truth in the crazy things I say.
But I think if these last 3 games have shown us anything, is that Jimenez is most effective coming off the bench. He's not a 90-minute player. He's most effective coming in, doing
consider the alternative.
Well, there is none. There is none.
You're 100% correct, but am I right in saying that he's not exactly getting the service, right, that a Jonas gets? For example, he roams too much. I think he roams too much. I'm not.
I don't know if you can make that comparison.
The
guys that appear in different
spaces. That's what I'm saying. But he's not getting the. I don't know. Like
but how can he get the service if he doesn't show up?
He had one this weekend where he kind of stopped with his right turn and shot. That was a good opportunity for him, and then Rafa was able to squander the rebound. But actually, I think
it goes off the defender.
Okay, fine. But Steve, I think there was the 2 breakaways that Rafa was on. He could have laid them both off to Jimenez. Yeah. That's Jonas. Does he lay it off to Jonas? And then, you know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think he gets the same service as a Jonas. And,
okay,
I'm not comparing the players. I'm not comparing the players. Jonas is way better. But
where you're going, where no matter what the options are, if Jonas is around, Benfica's looking for him.
Yes. See, I think in this game, he could have. Those are both breakaways that Rafa was on in the second half. He could have very easily laid him up to him, right? Laid him off. And let's just say he does. And Jimenez converts those chances. You're talking about Jimenez in a totally different way right now.
Here's my thing. Rafa, lots of times in those final moments, lacks that cool head, whether it's for the pass or the shot. I don't know if he sees Jonas. I don't know if Jonas or Jimenez makes the difference if he's next to him, personally. For those 2 situations. In terms of past that, Jonas just does too much. Jonas knows how to arrive late. Jonas knows how to basically suck the game so that everything comes to him, and then he lays off and shows up again. You know what I mean? They're way too different.
Yeah, and I'm not questioning or disputing Jonas.
I know. You're saying whether Rafa sees a pass if it was Jonas, and those 2 situations, I have a hard time believing it.
See, I think in I guess the example that I'm trying to draw up, right, guys, or the comparisons is when you get a Jonas on the field, right? Benfica tries to build the game, build the touch up, build the game, and bring it up to a Jonas, right? And a lot of times Jonas is either in a stationary position or he's moving, but he doesn't have to make the sprints that a Jimenez does. Jimenez is getting 25, 40-yard balls that he has to sprint on a diagonal run. He's not getting that service in about. Yes, he gets few, but I don't think he gets. That's what I'm trying. I understand, but that's what I'm trying. I'm just focus around what I'm saying. He doesn't get the service in the box. Forget where he gets it. I'm talking about in the box doesn't get the same service. That's all I'm saying.
But if he doesn't show up in the box, how is he going to get the service?
Oh, he showed up this week and they didn't pass it to him.
Yeah, there was at least a couple.
Okay,
that
so you can't say he doesn't show up because when he shows up, they don't pass it to him.
But look, when you look at Benfica's goal scorers, and Dave put up the stat, Jonas 33 goals, Salva 8 goals. That's a huge difference. That is a huge difference. That is 8 times, almost 8 times the amount of goals than the next guy has.
3 times, bro.
3 times.
Yeah, 3 times.
Wait,
but it's sorry.
Math is not a strong suit.
It's
8 times 3 is
almost
24.
9 times. Sorry, almost 4 times.
Yeah, it was, but I said 3.
8 times 4 is 28.
It ain't 8 times.
8 times.
8 times is 64. Sorry.
8, 16, 24, 32. Almost 4 times. But that's besides the point. Listen, here's the thing. What that shows you is exactly giving what I said some more credence, which is either Benfica relies and builds up play way too much through Jonas. Well, I think it's a combination of 2, I should say. Benfica builds way too much through Jonas. They're so reliant on Jonas too. He's so filthy disgusting that he converts a lot of the chances. But that's what it shows you, that Benfica is a one-man wrecking crew.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Jonas have some filthy finishes.
You're not whipping out your calculator, are you?
No, I'm pulling. I want to pull.
It's 3-1.
The questions.
That's the exact stat. 3-1. 3 goals to everyone that PZ has, right?
Yeah. Nah, my math was never my
Don't worry
strong
about
suit. Let's get into some questions. Francisco Marcelino, would you switch Rui Vitória for the Leonardo Jardim if the opportunity arrived in the summer, regardless of the outcome of the league? Well, look, um, I think that everyone that listens to this podcast and that doesn't listen to this podcast knows the way we feel about Vitória, right? So it's not a thing now. We haven't been um, criticizing Vitória because the team is not doing well. We've criticized them in his first year. We've criticized him in his second year. We've criticized him in his third year. We've always been critics of Vitória, and I don't have anything against Vitória. I just think that when you have the caliber of players that you have an obligation to put a better product on the field. So, as Cristiano likes to mention, when you play against when 80%, 85% of the teams are monkus, and your individual talent will propel you past those monkus, you're going to win most of your games. But to me, the biggest thing is that you have an obligation to the fan base. And regardless of whether no one was bought this season and Luis Felipe Vieira this, Luis Felipe Vieira that, you have an obligation to put out a better product, better football product on the pitch because of the talent that you have.
Look, I'm going to go one better. I think Benfica fans have become way too soft. Bunch of sissies. I love you guys. Love every single one of you. Way too soft. Okay? You stop demanding the best for your club, and that's when you become just a regular club. See, I grew up in the New York City area where everything is a must win, must do. Everything is the best of the best. And that's the mentality I've been surrounded my whole life. And if you're just going to sit there and be pleased with your coach, not really preparing your team to the best of its capabilities, not doing in-game changes that they're supposed to be doing, yada, yada, yada. I could sit here and pinpoint to so many different scenarios, right? When you just accept that, right, you become spoiled because you won 4 titles in a row. And 2, you're a sissy. I'm no less of a Benfica fan. I'm no less of a diehard than anyone else that doesn't criticize because I have the right to criticize. And if you think we're wrong for criticizing, I was trying to think of another language, but I don't know how to say. You don't got to submit. All right. It is what it is. It's your opinion, and I got my opinion. Dude. Now, to get back to the topic at hand, I like Leonardo Jardim, whatever his name is. Would I contemplate switching them for Rui Vitória? Absolutely. I would rather have Marco Silva, but that's another story for another day. But here's the situation, and this is exactly how I feel. If Benfica find a way to somehow pull this off and win the Penta, I want Rui Vitória back. I have no problem with Rui Vitória coming back. Because as long as he's winning, I'll put up with the inefficiencies and the stuff that I'm unhappy about. I don't care.
Because but we're not going to shut up.
No, I'm a pinpoint.
But we're still criticize.
I'm going to criticize when I see fit to criticize. I'm not going to criticize just because I want to criticize. When I see something I think is wrong, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. That's who I am. That's who I am. But now, if they win the Penta, I want to. Now, if they don't win the Penta, I don't give a crap who's in front of me. I think he should be gone. It's a terrible, 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 terrible year. It's the worst in the history of Portugal. Do I got to cover this again? It's the worst in the history of Portuguese Champions League, out of the Taças in December. It's been a terrible job.
Look, it's like you going out on a Friday night, and if you're single, you get all dolled up. You put on your best shirt. You put on your nice smelling cologne. You got your favorite pair of underwear. You hit the club where all the hot chicks are. And you got your eye on this really pretty, with a nice smile, nice body girl. And throughout the nights, your moves are not working, and then you end up settling for the girl that's gonna give you
be careful. Now you're gonna offend a lot of those.
No, I'm just saying. You're settling because
you're offending a lot of people.
You're getting something. And yes, wins are important.
Para casa sozinho, ver televisão. Aí já não ofende.
I guess winning cures all. But I think that as a fan, I have the right to demand something better from my team.
And especially the sócios, the paying sócios. What the hell?
The guys that spend their hard money to go to the stadium every single week, they have the right to demand a better product out of this team.
Simple.
All right. Anyway, Francisco Marcelino, this season, Rui Vitória was forced to change the tactic to 4-3-3.
Bro. What was your answer?
No, I mean, you guys know how we feel about Vitória.
Okay. Answer yes or no. That's it. That's what.
Would I take Leonardo Jardim? Yeah.
No matter what. That's the question. He said, if you win the title, would you still replace him?
Yeah. I would take at least 3-4 guys, with Leonardo Jardim being one of them, over Vitória.
Even with the Penta?
Even with the Penta.
Steve?
Yep.
I wouldn't. I mean, I got to be honest. I got to be fair to Rui Vitória. If he wins, I have no 100%. Bring him back. He won. It is what. Then you could give me that whole spiel that this season has been built around winning the Penta. Then I could say, you know what? Job accomplished. But if he doesn't, job wasn't accomplished. I know.
I think Rui Vitória was good for the purpose that we wanted, right? Which was to get away from the lottery buys in Brazil and to start betting more on academy players and young players and start to integrate them. And I think that Benfica at this point is in that phase. But now we need to perform better. And regardless of the quality of the players, and regardless we invest on. Look, I'm going to.
That's another podcast.
This season, Rui Vitória was forced to change the tactic to 4-3-3. I guess that you have to play the tactic that adapts the best to your squad. But ideally, what you think should be the Benfica tactic in the future? I guess I'm asking, what's your favorite tactic? I know that Steve supports the 4-3-3. I know that Cristiano might prefer the 4-4-2.
It all basically comes down to
personnel.
To personnel. I mean, if I have the players 4-2-2, but at the same time, I can make the argument for the 4-3-3. But I need my personnel.
João Gomes. Hey guys, if Benfica won against Tondela and Porto lost to Marítimo, would you choose to play with Jonas in Alvalade, even though he wouldn't be 100% and could have an injury in the middle of the game? But I think that we've said it a bunch of times here that you got to go with your best, healthiest 11. Obviously, if the guy can't play, if he's at 80%, do you put him in there?
No. I still start Jimenez and see what happens. We might not need Jonas. And then if we need him, then it is what it is. I'd rather him play 20 minutes giving me 100% effort than play 60 giving me 60% effort because he doesn't want to pull anything. He's cautious. You know what I mean? You can make the argument both ways because you could also say, look, I'd rather you start, give me 100%, and then if he gets injured, I still have subs to make. I mean, you can make the arguments, but I personally would go with Jimenez or Seferovic, whatever at this point. Start someone else rather than Jonas, and then if things are tight, whatever, and I need to go to Jonas, then bring him off the bench fresh when everyone else is a little bit tired.
Yeah.
Steve's over there thinking. He's got his Clark Kent
he's thinking
glasses. Yeah.
No, man. It's too much speculation, too much stuff about.
Steve doesn't like speculation.
Yeah, I'm not interested because, like, I know nothing about Jonas's physical condition. I don't know if he's able to sprint. I don't know if he's able to turn. I don't know any of the above. I'm not even going to pretend to think that, like, okay, he's going to play a few minutes because, yeah, sorry, João, but I'm not on board.
Here's another one from Francisco Marcelino. Newspapers are reporting the interest of English clubs in Servi. Do you feel that we should sell him if a decent offer comes? And he says, I found him to be a useful player, but in my opinion, I don't think he will develop much more than this, mainly because of his weak physique or his stature, I guess, small stature. I mean, look, anytime that there's a good proposition for Benfica doesn't hold anything back, and sells these players, obviously, because that's our model. Whether or not I think that Servi still has more to give to the club, yeah, I think so. Don't forget he's still young. Don't forget that the first 2 years Gaetan had were very inconsistent. I do think that Servi is a good player. Whether or not he could progress, that's really up to him. But I think he does have the talent to progress. He has the speed. He has that explosiveness. I guess he needs to be a little bit more consistent. But when you're a guy that depends on explosiveness and you have to be on all the time, not having that consistency can hurt you. So, but look, if a good offer comes, and good offers do come from England, because obviously they got that TV right money, hey, let him go. You got João Gonçalves.
My boy João Felix.
You got no, not João Gonçalves. João Gonçalves, sorry, João Gonçalves' birthday today.
Oh.
I missed that. But you have Diogo Gonçalves. You may have
João Felix come up.
João Felix, but he's not really a winger.
Okay, fine.
But you got Heriberto, which is still perhaps not there yet. But you got some guys that you could throw on the wing. Willock, that's right. Those. I mean, Benfica is not short of wingers. So
truth of the matter is, I don't think there's anybody in the squad, maybe Fesa, that doesn't have a price tag. Personally, the one guy that I really would not like to see go just yet is Ruben Dias, but he's probably one of the ones that will have the most market in the very near future. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Also, being reported, Atalanta is going to trigger Cristante's clause, 5 million clause. We bought him for 5.2. So, and apparently there's interest of the big sharks in England in Cristante. So, I think 5 million, and Benfica will have 15% of a future buy from Cristante. So, and the other guy that's also being talked about, Pelé, which is playing for Rio Ave. And I think he's owned by Rio Ave. Benfica owns 50% of his pass. So there's talks that Wolves is in for a 10 million bid, which obviously Benfica would get 50% of that.
Depends on what newspapers you believe, but they said it's a done deal.
Yeah.
Benfica gets 5 mil for a guy that supposedly Rui Vitória demanded for next season.
For a guy that was much better than Felipe Augusto, or what's the other guy that's in Braga?
Well, I can't talk bad about that guy no more because he looks good at Braga, Danilo.
He looks good. I was gonna say Danilo.
Let me tell you,
he never looked that bad, man. He always looked good against us. I'll tell you that much. And
yep.
I don't understand how it never worked. Pellé's looked good against us as well. Pellé's comfortable on the ball, which I would have liked to see, but we got a kid on.
Where's the kid Pepa?
That's what I was about to say. We got a kid that plays in a similar position or in the same position that's even better on the ball. So
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
All right, everybody, we're gonna wrap it up. We'll be back next week. We will talk the Tondela game. We'll have a big preview of the derby next week. Next Tuesday, we'll be here. Don't forget to check out our friends over at planetbenfica.co.uk. Big shout out to João and Manel as always. Cristiano, you can find Cristiano on Twitter at 10co10. Steve at Steve Santos 6. Dave does not have Twitter. If you need to get in touch with Dave, send me an email.
Or meet me at the Avalon.
Are you going to the Avalon?
No. Just shout out to who was it? Peter and Hugo from Lincoln, England. There.
Oh, yeah, Peter Damican.
Yes. No.
His handle on Twitter is PSHQET or something.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, Dave, good deal, man. You got recognized even though you don't have Twitter.
In the past, 10 years I've been in Portugal, maybe like a couple months total. No one's ever freaking said a word to me. And this guy goes and you guys go and it's just like randomly spotted.
It's Paul.
Yeah, I know. I look like a jerk. I know.
Not very approachable.
Yeah, I know. I know that's probably why.
Anyway, thanks for checking out, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week. See ya. Have a good week and stay safe and stay vigilant. It's a dangerous world out there. That's right. And whatever macumba you need to make, do it now.
kill all the black chickens ASAP.
Later.